former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Bray attacked prayer and pushed gun control in the aftermath of yesterday's shooting. What's the White House's response to their comments?
Yes, I saw the comments of my predecessor, Ms. Psaki, and frankly, I think they're incredibly insensitive and disrespectful to the tens of millions of Americans of faith across this country who believe in the power of prayer, who believe that prayer works, and who believe that in a time of mourning like this, when beautiful young children were killed while praying in a church.
That's the point. Clearly, prayer is not the answer for stopping more mass shootings from happening. That's the point. To use that and say, "Oh, well, we don't need gun control." Quite frankly, it's insensitive and disrespectful to people who think that prayer works. I don't give a what they think. I really don't give a because these kids were actively praying. And then they saw God. Two of them saw God instantly. There's a Minneapolis shooter. The right wants to frame them as trans and therefore anti-Christian. However, mother and marijuana, bro. Trans Minneapolis. What the fuck? See, the right is just going crazy with this shit. There was some debriefing about like let's see. Okay, here we go. See, it's even being suppressed. I literally saw a video. Oh, the ADL. Get the fuck out of here. The BBC might be a little less biased. Let's see. Targeting Catholics, said director Kash Patel. Of course Kash Patel is going to say that. Investigators determined that Westman harbored a whole lot of hate towards a wide variety of people and groups of people, and had also deranged obsession with previous mass shooters. These mass shooters were white supremacists and neo-Nazis. Okay, for anyone who's not aware of the situation, I'm sure almost everyone has heard about this to some degree, but there was a Catholic church and school in Minnesota that was victim to a shooter. 2 children were killed, and I believe 17 people were wounded, if I'm not mistaken. This is Annunciation Catholic Church. So I think 2 things to be very aware of. 1, this was somebody who had been coerced into like very like having neo-Nazi sentiment, if that makes sense, or like just white supremacist sentiment. I mean, yeah, we can read about that. The shooter expressed hate towards almost every group. Joe Thompson, acting U.S. attorney for the District of Minnesota, said at a news conference on Thursday. The shooter expressed hate towards black people, expressed hate towards Mexican people, expressed hate towards Christian people, expressed hate towards Jewish people. In short, the shooter appeared to hate all of us. So this is somebody that just had hatred in their heart. Expressed hate toward President Donald Trump. There appears to be only one group that the shooter didn't hate, one group of people who the shooter admired. The group were the school shooters and mass murderers that are notorious in this country. More than anything, the shooter wanted to kill children, defenseless children. The shooter wanted to watch children suffer. Now, the shooters and mass murderers that the notorious school shooters and mass murderers that this specific shooter idolized were rampant neo-Nazis and white supremacists. One such being the Christchurch massacre, which was, I believe, a shooting at a mosque. Yeah, New Zealand mosque shooting in Christchurch. Essentially, this guy, I mean, very clearly is a white supremacist. He is attacking Muslim people. But yeah, this was one of the people that was like written, I believe, on the shooter's guns, or on one of the shooter's guns. This shooter had that guy's name, along with a bunch of other like neo-Nazis' names on his weapons that he used to kill these people and harm these people. So just keep that in mind. There's a very clear underlying motive here, past just pure hatred. In spite of that, both and the other thing to be aware of, these kids were actively praying, and this is at a school, right? They were actively in the middle of prayer in chapel, right? So just keep that in mind.
Former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Bray attacked prayer and pushed gun control in the aftermath of yesterday's shooting. What's the White House's response to their comments?
Yes, I saw the comments of my predecessor, Ms. Psaki, and frankly, I think they're incredibly insensitive and disrespectful to the tens of millions of Americans of faith across this country who believe in the power of prayer, who believe that prayer works, and who believe that in a time of mourning like this, when beautiful young children were killed while praying in a church.
That's the point. Clearly, prayer is not the answer for stopping more mass shootings from happening. That's the point. To use that and say, "Oh, well, we don't need gun control." Quite frankly, it's insensitive and disrespectful to people who think that prayer works. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck what they think. I really don't give a fuck. Because these kids were actively praying. And then they saw God. Two of them saw God. Instantly. Like, what are we doing, man? That's disgusting.
It's utterly disrespectful to deride the power of prayer in this country, and it's disrespectful to the millions of Americans of faith. And I would encourage Ms. Psaki to pray for these families themselves who need it.
Bro, what do you mean? Those kids shouldn't be dead in the first place. Like, literally, all the guns that the shooter used, they bought legally. Fuck me, bro. Like, it's so crazy.
Caitlin's great to see you on this.
Good to see you.
The New York Post writes the following here. The headline, Minneapolis school shooter Robin Westman confessed he was tired of being trans. I wish I'd never been brainwashed myself. Your thoughts on that?
Ooh,
This is because of harassment online.
that's a tough one. Brainwashed myself is a key piece in it, but I need to go back a little bit. As you know, just recently, my good friend Sophia passed away in a tragic accident.
Yeah.
And so I haven't been on Fox, but for the last 7 weeks, I've been dealing with death. And it's so difficult. So when this happened, it really hit me hard. Because here I am dealing with my grief, and I just can't even imagine parents who drop their kid off at school. And like that father just said, I'll never get a chance to talk to him again.
Right.
That is just so horrible. And I've been dealing with grief, and these people have a long road ahead of them, and they're going to be dealing with grief also. I called you yesterday, and I said, Trace, I got to come on, and thank you, you let me on. Why? Because I'm so upset with the way the media has handled this thing. This guy was not a trans person, okay? I know so many great trans people that are wonderful human beings, and they do such good things in their life, and they're doctors, they're lawyers, they run businesses, they're great people. Okay. This was a sick individual. Okay. And as you said in that statement, how he was
Tired of being
brainwash myself. This guy is a product of the DEIs of the last, he's
Bro. DEI brainwashed this guy into shooting up a school. Are we for real? No. You know what happened? They were in online forums known as, and shout out Hassan for talking about this the other day. The Cult of Nine Angles and different online forums that push to radicalize people who express large amounts of self-hatred, which is something that trans people deal with a lot because, one, they're completely ostracized by American society, and two, because they're experiencing gender dysphoria within their own body. So there is a lot of struggle with self-hatred for trans people, very understandably. But where was I going with that? Like, these forums will, and it's not just like trans individuals, it's like, any young impressionable person who has any degree of like self-hatred, they will try and push them to commit egregious acts such as these. And that's exactly what happened. They were radicalized by far-right extremists on the internet. To say that this is a product of DEI or, it's because they were brainwashed. And I'm not going to speak to their identity, really, because whether they're trans or not, that's not the issue at all. The issue is, one, gun culture, and two, online far-right radicalization. Period. There is no other reason as to why this happened.
a trans person, okay? Trans, I know, was a sick individual. And as you said, he's like 22, 23 years old.
Right.
He grew up with all this stuff, okay? He was a sick person with a lot of problems. And you don't become trans by wearing a wig and putting a dress on, okay? And to have him identify as trans, even he changed his name, okay? And then he comes back and I'm sick of this, I don't want to be trans. He's one of the more confusing people. And this gender ideology that we're teaching our young people is destroying our young people. I mean, the mental things that they have to go through is just absolutely horrible.
What should we be doing?
Yeah, it is. But it's not because they're being faced with gender ideology. It's because they're being ostracized for interacting with said gender ideology because maybe it makes them feel more comfortable in their own bodies. It's very understandable for somebody to be even more self-hating because they receive hatred online for thinking maybe I'm trans, or maybe I identify somewhat as a trans person because I feel as though the gender or the sex I was assigned at birth is not in line with the gender that I would rather express myself as. And that's completely valid. But to say that, to say that that's the reason is crazy. Like, this doesn't just make somebody all of a sudden want to shoot up a school. No, it is directly because of influence that they receive online from, again, far-right radical groups who want to enact this kind of hatred and violence in the country and want to push people to do so.
First of all, I'm a firm believer. Let's not talk about it. We've been talking about trans issues. Trace, I have been on your show how many times?
Bunch.
Going all the way back to, Leah Thomas, and I've been on a rampage to keep biological men out of women's sports. That's it. Everything else about trans,
Dude. Okay, I'm not going to listen to Caitlyn Jenner talk about trans people, if I'm being honest. But anyways, I just thought that it was fucking insane. I'm not talking about this either. Honestly, I'm done for the day. But yeah, it's very infuriating to see the right try and twist this into some anti-trans narrative, and this could even compound in coming weeks, where they try to make it a reason to go after the parents of trans kids. and make it an established process in which the parents of trans kids are prosecuted or ostracized themselves, or and to make it okay to even go after trans people themselves. None of this is healthy or normal. It's not. They have an obsession with trans people. It's crazy. So all I would say is just let's be aware of the true impact of far right radicalization, because that is a very deep seated issue in this country and all around the world, but especially in this country. That is where most of this violence comes from, if we're being honest. So I think that's gonna do it today for me. It's been a solid 3-hour stream. Had a couple people pop in today, but if you're watching this on YouTube, I appreciate you watching all the way to the end. Come follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/McSwifty. I want to. This is a passion of mine that I've found. So if you want to participate in that, check me out on Twitch. Appreciate you watching on YouTube. Like and subscribe on the video. And yeah, thanks for watching.